me and my professional. And for those of you that came out, I'm Ms. Galli, National Vice President for Student Affairs, which candidates might not know is the person that does all the things. So that's the way to describe it. It's a catch-all sort of position on the council. I am the voice of the students, and whatever else the president tells me to do, because that's what the position does. So you're sort of, it depends on what biennium you're in, depends on what you're doing. But I've served on the curriculum committee since we started writing, so this is 3 years, almost 4 years. And in my professional life, I was a teacher. I was a special ed teacher, and now I'm a curriculum director. So I coach teachers and provide professional development and do all that kind of stuff. So I am a teacher at heart, I guess to say. So I'm modeling this lesson. Who's the BPM for this chapter? Okay, so I'm going to give you this so you can see what I'm doing as we're going through, because part of the beauty of this program is that you don't have to do it the way we have it written. We give you a guide, but if you're an educational major and this is your thing and this is your wheelhouse, then you can make this whatever you want it to be. And so one of the things that I've done in this lesson is take an activity from a different lesson and use it at the end. You're going to see I'm not going to use all the guiding questions. You'll see that. I didn't use all the activities. I just picked the things based on our conversation that we had with you that I thought would work for y'all. And that's the nice thing about this program, is that it's intended to be tailored to the people, the candidates that are going through at the time. Okay? So lesson 1, raise your hand if you're a candidate. 1, 2. Okay, that way I know when these guys are going to know what I'm saying, but y'all are not, so I'm going to be looking at you. So if you look confused or something doesn't make sense or something, I want you to stop and let's ask questions. Lesson 1 is the first lesson in the program, the way that the book puts it, but it doesn't have to be the first lesson overall. You could put it somewhere else if you wanted to. Again, that's the flexibility within the chapter. If you didn't want to do this first, you didn't have to, but I think most chapters do because it kind of makes sense because it's an overview. So our intentions at the end of this lesson, we hope that you can identify some of the symbols of Kappa Psi. So the carnation, the flower, our colors, our crest. So you get those pictures in your mind. And now I'm looking, we don't have a picture of the candidate pin, and I don't think it's mentioned in that lesson. So we probably need to put that as an edit.
Yep.
And that's what you'll find, is that there are still things that have to be tweaked. You'll be able to articulate the brand, the national brand of Kappa Psi, which is musicianship, leadership, and service. And to take the content of our mission statement, our vision statement, the preamble, the creed, and our brand, and kind of talk about who are we as Kappa Psi and what do we stand for? What are the values that we want the members of our organization to put out to other people? So when you actually go through this program, there is a candidate guidebook. Have y'all seen that yet, candidates? It's right on the desk there, candidate. And the candidate guidebook, this is also electronic. So if your VPM chooses to do this electronically, you can. But I'd like to show you. You'll see we have stuff underlined in that PowerPoint. You could do a fill in the blank. If you don't want to do that, your VPM could choose to have it already filled in for you. Or you could do a note-taking type thing. Again, this is all whatever you want it to be. It can look however you want it to. But our mission statement for Kappa Psi is that we're a co-educational fraternal organization that advances college and university bands for the benefit of its members and society through dedicated service and support to bands, encouragement of musical growth, lifelong educational experiences, leadership opportunities, and recognition. So if you were to look at our purposes, which you'll learn throughout the lessons, you would see bits and pieces of this in the purposes of Kappa Psi and why we exist as an organization. Our vision statement, Kappa Psi empowers and influences the vibrant and diverse college band movement through purposeful programming, unified messaging, and excellence in service and operations. So if we were to go back and look at the mission statement, take a minute and read it to yourself. And give me a thumbs up when you're done. want you to read the vision statement and give me a thumbs up when you're done. What do you see that's the same?
Service is what you do.
Service. What else do you see that's the same? Bands. So if you go back and you look at our intentions, when we talk about articulating the national brand of Kappa Psi, musicianship, leadership, service, do you see that in the mission? You see that in the vision? Okay, so I want you to take a minute, think about these questions, and I want you to write down your response on a sticky note. So how do you feel like those two statements drive or could drive our organization for those of you that are new to us? And why do you think it's important for us to talk about these things as an active member? Why are we looking at the vision statement? Why are we looking at the mission statement? Write down a thought or two and then stand up when you're ready. Go ahead and finish your sentence and then stand up. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to go up to somebody who is wearing the same color as you, that you don't usually pal around with, and I want you to share. That might be difficult, I don't know your dynamics there, but try to go up to someone you don't usually talk to, wearing the same color, and I want you all to share. Ready?
Am I using gray or am I using green?
You can go in a group of three, if you can do a group of three.
Okay, I've got great.
After y'all have both shared, and you can take another minute if you need to, after you both shared, you can go back to your seats. One thing I'd like you to be doing, I should have said this at the beginning, I'm sorry. Not that you would do this in a regular lesson, but the nature of this. I want you to, as I'm teaching, I want you to take notes on things that you see me doing to help keep you engaged, okay? Things that I'm doing to help get everybody involved in participation, to make it engaging. I want you to keep notes of that as we're going on. What I'd like to do now is just do like a popcorn out of maybe 2 or 3 comments, but I don't want it to be what you wrote down. I want it to be what your partner wrote down. Oh. So think about, did your partner say something really good that you want to share? And you want to say like, Marco shared with me that, and share their comment if you thought they said something really good. So can I have like 1 or 2 people? Yes, sir.
All right, so I talked to Jerry. He said when he read it, it told him that he was going to be a leader. It was like even if like someone came in trying to join just to join, like they would know like you're joining this and like you're going to become a leader through this fraternity.
So kind of empowered to sort of take that step. I love it. Thank you. Anybody else want to share what your partner said? One more. Yeah. Yeah.
Aaron said the set of guidelines that our chapter should strive for is our identity, and should be what we focus on in our day-to-day lives, and it's who we are as a fraternity.
I love that. So it's kind of like a call to action, right? Of what we should be doing, of what we should be striving for. It makes us want to do something when we read that statement. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so that's not the preamble to the National Constitution. We need to fix it. This is the preamble to the 5 purposes of Kappa Psi. I'm so sorry.
Which is close.
Be it known that Kappa Kappa Psi National Honorary Band Fraternity for college band members is an organization operating exclusively in the field of college and university bands and for the following several purposes. And there are 5. And for candidates, as you go through the Road to Wisdom, you will learn what those 5 purposes are. They're deliberately connected. They're not in the order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but rather connected to particular lessons. But this is stating that this is what we do, and this is why, and there's 5 more purposes that go with it. The creed, brothers, anybody want to share out, how would you describe, what would you say about the creed? How would you describe that?
I would say, if I'm talking about what is the creed in comparison to everything else, the creed is kind of it's a more concrete way of talking about what would define us in comparison to anyone that wanted to be like us, right? So if you wanted to be another band fraternity, what would you be? Well, how would you know that you're different from Kappa Kappa Psi? We would know because we're focused on leadership and responsibility. You would know because we really care. Music is truly the greatest of the arts, and that's how we feel. You would know because of the idea of striving for the highest and what that really means. We know that there's lots of secret meaning, and this, when I say secret meaning, I mean like personal meaning, right? If you say like music is the greatest of the arts, for me, that's because I know that music speaks in a language that nothing else can match. Just by any other language I've ever tried to learn, music beats that, right? So there's a personal meaning, and that's a meaning that we share together as brothers that's different from an outsider who may like band, or maybe a really awesome band parent, but they don't have this. Right, so the creed it's in my way I look at it, the creed is cement. The mission and vision statement, it's a really awesome foundation, but you can always get rid of it. But the creed, that's bedrock. Like it is solid, and it is the easiest way to talk about who we are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I love that. Any other brothers want to share? So when there are chapters out there, like my chapter used to start every meeting by saying this. And it was just something that we did to remind ourselves why we were there, because sometimes chapter meetings can be challenging. And so, and y'all know what I mean by that. And so it was just us taking a moment to stand up and together sort of reaffirm our beliefs and the reason why we're here, and kind of put us in the state of mind to have a really robust discussion about whatever we're going to be talking about. But I think that's a great way of putting it, Marco. And I appreciate your input on that, because it really just kind of defines, and I think almost on a personal level, like you were saying, just, you know, what we are and that commitment and connection that we have to the organization. So here's a couple thoughts. One of the things that the creed says is that a spirit of brotherhood is enhanced by the participation in a band program. A spirit of brotherhood is enhanced by participation in a band program. Take a minute, think about that. How is brotherhood enhanced by participation in a band program? Because lots of organizations have brotherhood, right? There's the Masons, there's other fraternal organizations or other sororities that exist for a wide variety of different purposes or have different philanthropies that they, you know, subscribe to. You have like organizations like the Lions Club and stuff like that. And so all of them have this sense of fraternity or sense of brotherhood. But we believe that a spirit of brotherhood is enhanced by the participation in band program. So think for a second. And then I want you to turn to the person behind you and have a conversation about that question.
So for those in the back row, that would not be turned behind.
No, you, sorry, the front row, thank you. Front row, turn to behind you and have a conversation about that question.
Everyone turns around.
I need to know.
I knew what I was going to say.
Being part of a band program is different than just being part of like whatever. Like you all have that. They have a like they're like working together, like whether it's whatever. But I don't know. You're not dependent on each other. You know,
Hey guys, point of clarification. When I mean brotherhood, I mean Kappa Kappa Psi brotherhood is enhanced by participation in the band program. And you can kind of talk about, there's other organizations that might foster a spirit of brotherhood, but think specifically, how is Kappa Kappa Psi different than that? What is it about band that makes our brotherhood special? Does that help? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
participate.
Another opportunity.
All right, anybody want to share? Anybody want to share? Part of the conversation? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I feel that the spirit of brotherhood is enhanced by a band program because, let's say like before Psi and you were in marching band in high school, you had this special connection with, you know, the people in your marching band. And when you become a brother of Psi, it's kind of like a little bit more enhanced and it's like a big commitment and you feel more, even more like a family because, you know, not only they play, like, you know, instruments with you, but it's also more so of, hey, this person is like that no matter what, and that kind of stuff.
Awesome, thank you, appreciate that. Yes, ma'am.
In comparison to other Greek-like organizations, like, they have their philanthropies that they have, but I find those things can be done alone, and you can accomplish what you want to do by yourself, even though they don't, but you could. But you can't accomplish being in a band program by yourself. So being in a band program does foster the brotherhood between us, because we all have to be in a band program to be in a chapter. And it strengthens our brotherhood because we're playing together every day. You know, it's something that we have to be together to do. You can't do it by yourself.
Anybody else? What piece of this speaks to you the most? I mean, it's all there, but I'll give you an example. When I look at the creed, something that really speaks to me is that through fraternal participation, each member will strive for the highest. And I feel like that's sort of our call to action. You know, that when we do this, we're committing ourselves to a life of selfless service. You know, we're a service organization, and so to me, what that's saying is that you have to be there to be striving for the highest. You have to be doing whatever is asked of you, that you're answering that call to serve, and you're doing it for something greater than yourself. Whether it's you're a student or whether you're an alumnus, there is that intrinsic motivation to be better and do better, you know, through this life of service. And so that's a piece of the creed that really speaks to me, because I was active in 2003 and it's 2018, and I'm a wife and I'm a mother and I'm a teacher, and I'm still here doing this thing because I feel this intrinsic motivation to still want to serve, whatever that looks like. So that's a piece that speaks kind of personally to me. Anybody want to share?
For me, it's that music is universal language and truly the greatest of the arts. Because I feel it's something that splits us all from everyone else. Like, there's a lot of fraternities that help service, they help do all this, but like music really connects us in a way that nothing else really can. And I think that's just what makes it so special. It's so unique.
At first, I thought that music is a universal language and truly the greatest of the arts. I thought that was like the part of this creed that was for me, because it was just something I could understand the most. But as I became more involved in this chapter, I found out that like band programs foster responsibility, loyalty, and leadership. Like all three of those things I did not have coming into this fraternity yet. And then like out of nowhere, all of this, like I couldn't like be basically sluggish and do things the easy way. Like I had to get out of my comfort zone and like be responsible. I had to be loyal to things, and I got that leadership role basically. And I didn't even see it coming. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
No, I think that's great that you know you read this and you sort of have this personal reflection about, you know, how does the organization change me, or why do I want to be a part of it? And I think that's awesome. One more share. Anybody else? Yeah.
I know. Wait, what was the question?
What part? No, that's okay. What part of this like, kind of speaks to you?
Okay. So I know for me, it's probably the last part, and through fraternal participation, each member will strive for the highest, because it could just say, and each member will strive for the highest, but it specifically says through fraternal participation. So it reminds me that like you're going to learn how to strive for the highest through other people and with other people, and that like we put that at the end, like it's supposed to be like that state. It's like that end goal of all of this is that we all strive for the highest, and that the fraternity is here to push us to strive for the highest.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's, when you sit here and you have conversations like this, like sometimes it's so easy for it to just be words on the page. But then when you share out these very personal things about, reflecting on something like this and what we believe and how does that impact me and how did it change me as a brother, it becomes so much more than words on the page, and it's more a reminder, of who we are and why we do it. So this first, we looked at our mission, our vision, not the national constitution, but rather our purposes, and the creed. And now we're going to look at kind of breaking down this idea, this national brand of musicianship, leadership, and service. And there is a slide on brotherhood because brotherhood kind of encapsulates all of those things. So musicianship, Kappa would say that it begins with appreciation of the arts, and music is an art form through the desire for the best in artistic performances, our knowledge, our skill, and that we must support our fellow musicians through encouragement and helping the weaker performers. And we see pieces of this if you were to read our purposes. Okay, so this is reflected in there. So musicianship, not just in being a great performer, because that definitely wasn't me. I did band because it was fun, not because I was really particularly any good, I don't think. But I did band because I loved it. And I have an appreciation for music. I always wanted to encourage other people that we must support. And so when you think about musicianship, it's not just being a great musician, but rather the support, the encouragement, the desire to be better. I think that's all encapsulated in that idea of musicianship. Leadership is obviously a cornerstone of what we do. It's one of the things that defines us as an organization. And thinking about the idea that we are more capable, more concerned, and more interested in the band program, that we are the people that are there on the sidelines, making sure everything runs great. We're on the front lines, providing that example to others, taking those moments that people don't always want to take to step up to do the right thing and be the example for others, whether it's in a chapter, whether it's the way you represent your university, the way that you represent your band program, whatever that looks like. But being people that we're guided by a set of values and that we're standing up for those values every day. Service, we've obviously talked about that idea of a coordinated endeavor, and that it's who we are, that life, that call to selfless service, to serve our college and university band programs. And then brotherhood being that, if you think of, many people refer to the fraternity's pillars as musicianship, leadership, and service, and I'm looking at the candidates and sort of brotherhood being the foundation of all of that. And so brotherhood being the way, or what's the word I'm looking for?
I guess I look at it opposite.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
share. Go ahead, share.
So
I love it.
But I love it because the analogy is so good. So I learned it as it's a three-legged stool, and the brotherhood is the base.
There you go, yeah,
The top of the stool, right? So you put all the weight on brotherhood, and it's only supported if musicianship, leadership, and service are there. Otherwise, the brotherhood crumbles in some form, the band crumbles, and whatever. So you have to be balanced, but you also have to recognize that you're putting all of your pressure on each other to be successful. It's not one person. If it's one person that they're always tipping one foot, you're not really sitting down, right? So you have to put both cheeks down. You have to be engaged in. And I learned that from a band director who was trying to explain it to themselves. I think, if you can understand the need for symmetry and for engagement in all of the aspects of the fraternity, then you understand the brotherhood.
See, and that's so funny because I pictured it as think of a building, and I've thought of a concrete foundation as being brotherhood, and then sort of opposite, I guess, flip.
Yeah.
And then the three pillars and sort of the band being at the top, and then everything would fall over if you don't have that relationship with people to kind of get you together. So I love that. Thank you, Rico. Anyway, the idea being that this is what, I say to people sometimes that if you look at what we do in many aspects of our organization, it's kind of like a band pairs organization in high school, that we're raising money, we're moving things, we're organizing things, we're sort of doing all those things. But then when you get to the fraternity, It's the people that make you want to join. It's the people that make you stay. It's the people that cause you to hang out with these guys, for 15 years of your life, because it's people. It's the connection. It's the brotherhood that makes this so special and so unique. Or maybe more than 15 years of our life. And so, I don't know, it's the thing that binds us, right? It's the glue. So, thinking about these ideas of musicianship, leadership, service, and brotherhood, we're going to do an activity. I don't have paper plates, but we're going to use paper called Pass the Plate. I have 3. Let's move into groups of 3. Yeah, that'll work. Groups of 3. And you can just use the people closest to you. So 1, 2, 3. Musicianship. And then 1, 2, 3. Leadership. 1, 2, 3. Service. And then y'all write brotherhood. So if you could write your quality at the top. I'm going to set a timer for a minute. When I find my phone. There it is. And here's what you're going to do. Somebody in the group be a scribe. And all the ideas that you can think of that are associated with that term. It could be examples, it could be qualities, it could be things about your chapter. It doesn't matter to me. But whatever you can think of to describe your word, put it on paper. When the timer goes off, you're going to pass the paper to your right. Pass yours over. All right, ready? Go.
Okay. Water coolers. That's all I think about.
Oh, okay. I'm writing being more.
It's too late. Oh, Russ. Okay, water coolers.
Come on, Brian. Set up some ideas.
There's an extra space in front of me.
The 2.
Okay, stop. Pass it to your right.
Just pass it to the left.
Okay, well,
Here, I'll take it.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Okay, so there's going to be ideas on the list, so now you're going to get 45 seconds. Ready? Go. Could be qualities, could be ways it's demonstrated, ideas.
Yeah, working with others.
Okay, go ahead and pass it. All right, go.
It's all right.
It's gonna get harder as you keep getting that paper.
You spell precious, right?
I don't know how to spell practice.
Yeah, working with X-rays is going to be organized.
How do you demonstrate it? Y'all just went to Disney together. There you go.
I know.
Okay, and then the last, this should be the last turn. All right? Go ahead.
Beer training. We have a beer training.
Yeah.
You do. Thank you. Love each other. Have a sense of love. That's fair. That's what it's like. Despite flaws.
Yes.
Yes.
I can't think of like how to word this without writing my
They're making me list right now, so all the things everybody says so quick, everybody has time to do.
Accepting.
That's what I want.
All right. It's a good one. Okay, I want you to look at your list. I want you to look at your list, and when you're with your group, I want you to pick your top 3 to share. The paper you have now.
Oh, are we keeping it?
Yeah, go ahead, keep your groups, keep the papers you have, and I want you to pick 3 that you're gonna share out with everybody. Okay, the group that has musicianship, go ahead and share your top 3.
Patience, silent communication, and compassion.
Oh, I love that. Which really has nothing to do with being able to play your instrument well and everything to do about that support system, that encouragement, being there for one another. So I love that. That's awesome. Leadership.
All right. Knowing when to be a leader / follower, basically, you gotta know how to play both roles. Responsibility is a big factor, and our biggest one we think is give praise, takes blame.
Right. Love it. As your director is cheering in the background. Service.
Helping bands, helping when you don't want to, and organizing the music library.
Again, your band director is cheering in the background. I love that. And brother?
We chose trust, honesty, and communication.
Yes. And the confetti comes down. So let me ask you a question. Think about this activity and how, not everybody's here from the chapter, right? Obviously, we don't have everybody here. How rich do you think that would be if you did this activity with the chapter? What kinds of things do you think it would point out? Yeah.
Like what different people see from the chapter, basically.
Mm-hmm. Kind of that collective sort of definition, right? What else? What do you think that this activity could do if you did this as a whole chapter? Everybody, candidates, brothers, everybody all together. What do you think it could do for you? Yeah.
I think doing this activity basically would open up other people's eyes in the chapter that don't know that this is how they're thinking, basically, because I have my view on Captain Kappa's side, and other brothers have totally different other views, and this right here will basically open everyone's eyes to what everyone thinks about the fraternity and what like aspects they
We could also use this at the end when we decide which ones were the most important to us. We can reflect on what our chapter is like and our individuals, and if we're doing the things that we thought were the most important.
Right? So it's kind of like that moment where you're able to sort of put those things up on the board and say, are we, like the litmus test, right? Like, are we doing this? Like, is this the way that this is what we think it is, but are we actually living it? And if we're not, what are the ways that we need to do, or what are the things that we need to do to be able to strive higher and be better, and really live up to what we're saying that these things are that we believe. Anybody else? That's great, guys. You had some great things there. So the last part of this lesson is about fraternity symbols. And as the candidates, so these are identifying things about Kappa Psi. One of those is the flag. So if you see this anywhere, you know that this identifies us. We actually now have a flag plaza at headquarters, which has been newly constructed, and so we have the fraternity flag that flies there now. It's actually quite pretty. But you'll see that there are 3 overlapping stars in the middle of the flag, and the bottom of the flag is blue, the top of the flag is white. Kappa Psi or KK Psi is in the white field and marked. Our official cheer, if someone says KK,
Sorry.
there you go. Usually grumbly, especially if you have a large group. Our colors are blue and white. Red carnation, which we should probably have a picture of. Just a thought.
But we have one.
We have one.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, friend. That's perfect.
Almost got red roses. That's the reason.
TBS. That's Tau Beta Sigma. Red Rose. Official motto of Kappa Psi is strive for the highest. And then this is what our crest looks like, or the coat of arms, or you might hear it as the Kappa. But this is our crest. There should be, according to the learning intentions, a picture of your candidate in here.
That is now on the list.
But there is not. But that's okay. And so to wrap up the lesson, this is not an activity I mentioned at the beginning. This is not an activity that is actually in this lesson. But I like it, and I pulled it from the brotherhood lesson because knowing that it's a little bit different today, that we have brothers in the room, I thought this would be a nice kind of way to end our lesson. But I want to do an activity called personal scrolls. And so basically what I'd like you to do is I'm going to give everybody a piece of paper. I want you to write your own name on top. And I'm going to do what I did before and kind of set a 10-minute timer. So as you get your paper, someone's paper is going to come across. I want you to write a comment to them, encouraging words, or something about how do you see that person exemplify the qualities of musicianship, leadership, service, or brotherhood. So maybe it's something very personally that that person did for you, like they were there for you in a moment that you really needed them, and that sort of exemplifies brotherhood. Maybe it's an inside joke that you're going to write on here, something very special that you share with someone, because I could write a whole bunch about some people in the back of the room there. That would be something that's very meaningful. Or maybe it's just something that you admire about the way that they lead the chapter, something you admire about the way they play their instrument, or just an encouraging word. But one sentence, or maybe 2, and then pass the paper along. Okay? Everybody understand what you're going to do? You're going to comment in everybody's paper. Feel like the whole world is against you, you have this moment and this paper that you can go back to and you can read and you can know that there's this group of people that supports you unconditionally, and that even if you're having an argument, even if someone didn't vote the way you wanted them to, or somebody didn't show up to service and you were stuck with more to do, or somebody said something that really made you angry, that deep down underneath it now, underneath all of that, is someone that cares for you unconditionally. There's a couple different ways you could do this activity. We had a small group, so I did it that way. You could put actual long paper on the walls and have it be more of a gallery thing, so people can just come and go, so you don't pick up. We did this in about 15 minutes, so it just depends on the size of your group and everything, how you want to structure that activity. But think about how powerful that can be when you do it with your candidates and your brothers. Or if you just had it for the candidates and all the brothers came through and wrote those things at that point in the process where you just feel like it's never going to end, and they have something to go back to and remember that I'm joining this group of people that loves me. Because you do, that's part of brotherhood and fellowship. So I think it's a good way to kind of end, since this is a little bit more unique situation here. When we look back at the goals of this lesson, we did identify those symbols. We articulated the brand when we did the pass the paper activity. Synthesizing the content, there's a different activity we could have chose, but we sort of did this in more of a personal reflection sort of way. So looking at the people in our chapter and looking at how they might exemplify those statements. There's another activity in there that you could have chosen instead. But it's important to go back and make sure that we taught what we said we were going to teach and that people are actually getting that out of it. So, not that you would necessarily do this with candidates, but I want you guys to take a minute and think about what are the things that I did to keep you engaged, because we're at 3:13, pretty good. I wanted to do an hour. So this session was taught to you in an hour. So how did I keep you engaged in an hour? What did I do? Ask us questions. Okay, ask questions.
Kept very good eye contact. I feel like you were like just talking to me, but like looking at everyone else. I don't know.
Thank you.
It was really good.
She does that to all of us, JJ.
Body language and movement around the room that makes us keep us engaged instead of just like staying in one spot and having us just look at more and keeping us right here and moving around.
Right, so it wasn't just always popping off the top. There was kind of a varied way to think about things, yeah.
Like at the end of each section and part, you reviewed it, so you went back and reviewed every single section and everything, and you went back again and make sure you did it multiple times.
Okay, and why is that important?
Just to make sure everyone's paying attention.
Yes.
Comprehending everything.
Okay, so let me ask you this, before you go on, I want you to think about something we're gonna come back to. Did I need a test to teach what I taught today? I want you to think about that. Go ahead, keep telling me what I did that was awesome. I'm just kidding. What I did to keep you engaged, that's what I'm really asking.
You made
Yes.
us talk to different people in each activity so that we weren't discussing the same things with the same people
So how many different people did you talk to today?
at least.
At least 3 in your group, and then you got up and talked
Well, I
to
talked
someone?
to her.
Oh, right, because she was in your group again. Okay, so I did pretty good. 3 in an hour is pretty good. Go ahead.
Just like, there was never a moment where I felt like I was being lectured to. Like, I felt like I was like part of the conversation the whole time.
Why?
Because there was always like, here's a slide, let's talk about it. And it was always an opportunity to go back and forth with it.
Awesome, thank you.
To make sure we're comprehending it by asking personal interpretations. Because the best way to get that we're getting it is for us to say not going off of you, but saying that what we're thinking of.
Yes, right? Okay, so part of this is taking content that you've never seen before, those of you that are teachers, and connecting it to something, a personal experience, a feeling, an emotion, so that it sticks in your head, right? Something that you'll be able to remember it by. Yes.
At the beginning, you got us to move. You got us to get us to move a little bit.
Yeah, and I would have done more of that, but this room is
No.
not the best for that. So, what matters? If I couldn't really get you to get up and move, what matters?
Interactions between each other. And you.
Yeah, and that physical setup of the room, right? Which this I liked because this was very intimate here. It would have been nice maybe if I had spread some of the chairs out to give us the opportunity to get up and move, so that you're able to take the moments to stretch your legs so you're not sitting the whole time. Anything else? When I said something to you like, I want you to write down X, Y, Z, and then what did I ask you to do when you're done? Stand up or thumbs up. Why?
So that you knew everyone was ready.
Yes, so we're not wasting instructional time, right? Everything about this job is preparation and pacing. So an effective lesson is making sure, one, people are comprehending what you're thinking. The information is already chunked for me. I just made sure after every chunk I either asked you some questions or made you do an activity. Two, that I'm not wasting someone's time. So this, which is why I asked what time did we start, so I knew exactly how much. If this lesson is set for an hour, I'm not going to take more than an hour, and we got done at 3:13, which was, we started at 2:12. So knowing that how long things are going to take about, knowing when to push you along and knowing when to give you the time. When we did the scrolls, I gave you 4 more minutes because you needed the time. That was an important piece. I wanted to give you the time. When you're having conversations, 1, maybe 2 minutes, just enough time to be able to share back and forth. So a good instructional strategy is some people need think time. So pose a question, give them a minute or less to write it down on a piece of paper. They get up and share, so then they're not wasting time thinking. When they go to share with someone, you can actually have a conversation and share that information so it's a little bit more meaningful because I gave you time to think first. Almost all of those things are not written down in that book. So there are things that I just do because I've gone to school to be a teacher and I know how to do them. But the idea of this was to sort of model to you some of those things that you might not be getting out of what's in that book. That book gives you a lesson, and I followed it fairly closely, but it didn't tell you to stop, turn, and talk. It didn't tell you to get up and find somebody wearing the same color as you. It doesn't tell you any of those things. And that's kind of the piece that we're hoping to help improve as we go through. But one of the things that we get when we're teaching this is people aren't engaged. And so those are the things that you can do to build engagement, getting people to talk to each other, getting them up and moving, doing something like posing a question. And I didn't use anywhere near all the questions in there. I picked the ones that I liked that I wanted to have a discussion about based on our conversation with her that I thought would be meaningful for you. So knowing your people and picking the right activities. But the goal of that being that you don't have to do every little nuance that's written down there. You pick what you think is going to work, or if you have a membership committee that can go through and pick the things that you want that works for the candidates there. Now let me ask you, when you think about this lesson and you think about the things that I wanted you to learn, what do you feel like was more important? Being able to memorize that creed, or the discussion that we had where we talked about what was important to us in it?
The discussion.
Why?
Because just regurgitating it doesn't do much. Because when I was online, we did the test. I did all the tests. And I didn't have any, I just was able to regurgitate a creed. I didn't know anything behind it, if that makes sense. I was just tested on, okay, repeat this information. And that's what I did. And I got A's on my test. But we never went deeper into anything. It was just all surface level. It's important to understand everything, because then it doesn't matter if you have it memorized word for word. What matters is you understand why we are who we are.
I love it. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Because it gives it a meaning. It goes from just being words and goes to creed to backing and it just makes it more powerful and more personal than just words.
Yeah, it's kind of like that personal reflection where you get to take a moment and just think about the reasons why. Because many of us joined because of the people. I joined because everybody in the progression section was in Kappa side. Those were my buddies. And so, yeah, it made sense. I already served the band. That's what progression does. We move everything. But then when you find out the things and you love music, you realize this really, this is for me. And this is a lens for us to kind of view why we do what we do as musicians. Through kind of those calls to action and the creed and some of our other stuff. So do you feel like you learned this information in a way that might be different than if I just asked you to take notes? Do you feel like you learned this information deeper than maybe just surface level? So what do you think then, how do I put this question? How do you feel like the road to wisdom then has changed the way we look at, or the way y'all look at membership education? What impact do you think it's had on your experience?
I would say, I don't think it's a coincidence, because I was telling y'all earlier about the brotherhood and how it used to be like really bad. But that's back when we just memorized everything and took a test, and then we were in the chapter. But now that the Road to Wisdom kind of makes us, doesn't force you because we want to be here, but it does guide you to understand everything, and I think it gives us a deeper sense of brotherhood because, you know, we're not just here like a biology class, like just saying, oh, well, this is this, because you're not friends like this in your biology class, there's no brotherhood, but we learn all this information on such a deep level that it connects us, and we're just, like, our brotherhood is a lot more tight now than it was back when we were doing all the testing and stuff.
I also was in line when we did the test. I feel like the Road to Wisdom is a better way of memorizing it because during my line process, we talked about it, and then that was it. And then just, okay, go home, next week you're gonna have a test. So it was like, it was talked about, but it was like the slimmest surface, you know? And I feel like with the Road to Wisdom, it's like, okay, well, if I understand this is why the creed is this way, or this is how the purposes all come together, it's a better way for future brothers to understand our concept better and grab a hold to know what makes us us.
Yes, sir.
I think everybody has a different story. And I think everybody has a different reason for why they wanted to join the fraternity. I think with the Road to Wisdom, it helps accentuate those strengths and accentuates what everybody else brings to the table. And by everybody utilizing those strengths and wanting to share those strengths with the brotherhood, it just makes the brotherhood as a whole stronger. And the Road to Wisdom really helps with that.
So let me ask you this. Y'all did Road to Wisdom last year. Some of you went through Road to Wisdom. Okay. Did brothers come to the lessons?
Yes.
That's awesome. So do you see how the ways that you can involve the whole chapter in coming and being a part of this, how this can bring everybody together? And it's not just about candidates, let me pass down all of my knowledge to you, siphon it out of my brain or something, or pull the memory out, like, what's his name? Dumbledore. Pull the memory out of my head and stick it in yours. But about sharing that experiences and those thoughts and those ideas and building the bridge between the candidates and brothers. And, this whole program was designed to bring you closer and closer together until the very end. So it's not candidates and brothers, but rather it's everyone, brothers, all together. Final thoughts on today? Yep.
From those that have gone through Road to Wisdom or not, how many of you are educators or in the education world? Okay, so for all of you that are not in the education world, do you feel like you could do this? Like maybe a little coaching here and there. I'm a partial educator because I'm an administrator, so I don't get to count. So sometimes I need coaching too. But one of the things is, if Jessica had someone else working with her, would it have worked? If it wasn't Jessica instead, if we put Ken in there instead, would it have worked using the same format? So when you're thinking about this for you as a chapter, Brother Vice President is an incredible resource, but he's not the only person that has to care about March Vet. And your presence is valuable, but your participation is even more so. So you may look at this and say, hey, so-and-so, I really value your musicianship. I mean, I'm just gonna fess up. I'm the one that wrote that thing on your scroll. I just think you just really get it. I'd love if you could teach part of this and do this part and talk a little bit about this or give a little bit, of your story, because we just need to hear it, right? I think it's a great way as a vice president, but it's also a great way, if you think about that, you could do that with any part of the chapter. Like, why does it have to be that only 3 people get to talk, right? Like, you're adults. If you haven't heard that before, sorry to break the news. You're adults. You can handle talking to each other. I know. It's a hard thing, and I think sometimes, if you notice, this is not taught at a kindergarten level, right? You're adults, and it's approached as you're adults. And so you can take these same ideas and think, okay, how do we do this in a committee meeting? there were a lot of the skill sets that Jess was showing up there, you could have used in a committee meeting, right? Engaging people, making sure everyone understands what's going on before you vote, instead of just saying, hey, it's time to vote. I don't really care if you know what you're voting on because we know you're not gonna abstain, right? Like, instead, actually talking to each other and getting to know. It's a very valuable skill. And I will tell you, I mean, Jess is underselling it. I mean, it takes work. It takes some time, but a lot of that time is the preparation you do beforehand. It's not years of scholarship, although the years of scholarship are really important. It's practice. It's, getting someone, it's doing it in front of the mirror. It's doing it in front of someone else. It's going through your lesson plan more than once or more than 5 minutes before. There's a lot of professionalism in there, but you can do that for any aspect of it.
And so much of it, preparation is the key. Preparation is the key. I cannot stress that enough, that preparation is the key. Going through this lesson, we decided what lesson we were going to teach y'all maybe an hour and a half before you came. I was already thinking in my brain, okay, I don't like this activity for what I want to do. I want to pull this activity in. I knew that I wanted to make sure that I was done in an hour so I can show you that this can be done. I wanted to make sure that that was modeled to you. I was thinking about, I was already prepping and made sure that the pens and the paper you had at the very beginning so I didn't waste instructional time. So those little things that you can do to make sure that people's time are valuable, but then also keeping yourself on pace. I had to fix this PowerPoint and add in the questions that I wanted because I didn't want to use all 5 of those because that's going to stretch our time for hours. I just picked the ones that I wanted us to discuss. So those little things, it's just going through and reading and deciding. When I look at the candidates that I have, what are their strengths? And that might be a conversation, asking the candidates, how do you guys like to learn? Are you a group of people that you need to get up and move around? Are you a group of people that really likes technology so you can use like Kahoot to put things up there, or maybe not a PowerPoint? You can use, what's that called that spins and flips? Prezi. You can use a Prezi. Or maybe the books don't work for us and you want them to just be able to take notes, because you don't have to use this. There's nothing that says that this has to be used. You can use it however you want it to be. But continually asking your candidates afterwards, one of the things I asked you afterwards is, tell me if you feel like you learned this information. You could do an exit ticket at the end, and you could have said, okay, that last bullet point here, synthesize the content into cohesive explanation. Like, who do you think Kappa Kappa Psi is? What did you learn today? Give me an exit ticket as you're walking out the door. And then you can take a look and see, okay, are they using words like leadership, service, musicianship, brotherhood, strive for the highest? If you see those 5 words, hey, they got it. I don't need a test to tell me that. Or if your class is small enough, hey, write it down on a sticky note, everybody let's share at the end, and let everybody hear all those great things. So doing those little things, to do little tiny assessments middle time to let you know what you need to work on for next time. There's the lesson assessments at the end of the lesson that you can use to say, hey, here's a lesson assessment. I want you to go do it with your big brother. When you come back to the next week, we're going to start lesson 2 by reviewing lesson 1 to make sure everybody has it in the brains. Everybody have questions before we move on. Does everybody feel good about the information, or something still burning in your brain? So doing those little things by making sure that you're planned out, you have all of your materials, that you've looked at that lesson ahead of time, are little things that as you teach the lessons, things like timing gets better. But really think about facilitating conversation, making sure people have a chance to share, because especially when you have a big class or even a big group like this, it's easy to hide. There was no opportunity to hide here. Every time you had to share, because either I made you write down on a piece of paper first, or I made you turn to the person behind you, or you worked in a group of 3. So there was always an opportunity for everybody to share their thoughts, and it's not just throwing a question up there and saying, okay, what does everybody think? Which you can do, but then you're only hearing 2 or 3. What do you think? Questions, thoughts, ideas? Did you like this format? Do you feel like you got to see an example of what it could look like?
Yeah.
That's important. I would not have wanted to waste your time for now. Last thoughts? Anything else from the back?
Thank you so much, Jessica. That's awesome. I appreciate you very much for doing
I
that.
do have a presentation that's like BPM 101 that I can share with you that has some of those preparation type things in it that you'll be able to go through. And of course, you have a resource right in the back of the room that knows this program quite well to be able to assist you as well. But I can share that with you. That kind of gives you some of that planning piece that will kind of help you and sort of some teaching ideas to think of too. So. And there's some links for instructional strategies, that kind of thing. So I think we're probably good.
Yeah, we're good. Thanks, Jessica Suggs. Appreciate that.
With your little screen.